What if I told you that 96% of everything you worry about is completely pointless? What if I told you that the average American spends over 2 hours every single day consumed by anxious thoughts that will never materialize into reality? What if I told you that there's a scientifically proven system that can eliminate worry from your life forever, giving you the peace of mind that successful people have enjoyed for centuries? You're about to discover the most powerful worry elimination system ever developed, a system that has been tested by thousands of high achievers across America and has consistently delivered one remarkable result: complete freedom from the mental prison of worry. This isn't wishful thinking or positive psychology fluff. This is a systematic approach based on decades of research from Harvard Medical School, Stanford University, and the Mayo Clinic, combined with the wisdom of history's most successful individuals. The research is absolutely compelling. Dr. Robert Leahy at Cornell University conducted a comprehensive study following 3,000 Americans over a 5-year period, tracking their worry patterns and actual life outcomes. The results were staggering. 40% of what people worried about never happened at all. 30% concerned past events that were completely beyond their control. 12% involved health concerns that proved to be unfounded. 10% focused on trivial matters that had zero impact on their lives. Only 8% of their worries concerned legitimate issues, and of that 8%, only 4% were within their sphere of influence. Think about this for a moment. The scientific evidence shows that 96% of human worry is absolutely wasteful. You're literally spending hours of your precious life energy on mental activities that serve no constructive purpose whatsoever. This is perhaps the greatest tragedy of human potential, because while you're consumed with imaginary problems, real opportunities for success, happiness, and achievement are passing you by every single day. But here's what's even more disturbing. Worry isn't just unproductive, it's actively destructive. The American Medical Association has conclusively proven that chronic worry suppresses your immune system, elevates your blood pressure, disrupts your sleep patterns, and significantly reduces your life expectancy. Worry literally kills. It's a form of self-imposed mental torture that destroys your health, sabotages your relationships, and guarantees mediocrity in every area of your life. The cruel irony is that worry masquerades as productivity. Your mind tricks you into believing that by worrying about something, you're actually doing something constructive about it. This is completely false. Worry is nothing more than negative goal setting. When you worry, you're using the incredible power of your imagination to vividly picture, emotionally experience, and mentally rehearse exactly what you don't want to happen. You're literally programming your subconscious mind for failure. Here's what I promise you today. I'm going to share with you 7 proven principles that will eliminate worry from your life forever. These aren't theories or concepts. These are practical, actionable strategies that you can implement immediately. By the time we're finished, you'll possess the same mental tools that have enabled presidents, CEOs, and world-class performers to maintain absolute peace of mind regardless of external circumstances. The foundation of all worry elimination begins with understanding what worry actually is. Worry is sustained fear caused by indecision. Read that again. Worry is sustained fear caused by indecision. This definition changes everything, because it reveals that worry is entirely optional. The moment you make a decision, worry disappears. The moment you choose a course of action and commit to it completely, your mind stops generating anxious thoughts and starts focusing on implementation. This brings us to the first principle of worry elimination, the principle of immediate decision-making. Every worry in your life right now exists because you haven't made a definitive decision about something. You're mentally bouncing back and forth between possibilities, creating internal conflict and uncertainty. The solution is devastatingly simple. Make the decision immediately. Choose your course of action and commit to it completely. Even a wrong decision that you execute with total commitment will produce better results than paralysis disguised as careful consideration. Theodore Roosevelt, one of America's most decisive presidents, had a simple philosophy that eliminated worry from his life. Do what you can, with what you have, where you are, and don't worry about the rest. This isn't simplistic advice. This is profound wisdom. Roosevelt understood that worry only exists in the gap between what you can control and what you can't control. When you focus exclusively on what you can control and take immediate action in that area, worry becomes impossible. The second principle is the principle of fact-based thinking. Most worry is based on assumptions, not facts. You assume something terrible might happen. You assume people are thinking negatively about you. You assume your business might fail. You assume your health might deteriorate. But assumptions are not facts. Facts eliminate worry instantly. The cure for assumption-based worry is investigation. Pick up the phone, send the email, schedule the appointment, have the conversation, get the medical examination, review the financial statements. In virtually every case, you'll discover that the facts are far less threatening than your assumptions. I learned this principle early in my business career when I was convinced that a major client was about to cancel our contract. I spent weeks worrying about it, losing sleep, and creating elaborate contingency plans. Finally, I called the client directly and asked about their satisfaction with our services. Not only were they completely satisfied, they wanted to expand the contract. 2 minutes of fact-gathering eliminated weeks of worry. This experience taught me that most worry exists only in the absence of accurate information. The third principle is the principle of worst-case scenario planning. This is perhaps the most counterintuitive strategy for eliminating worry, but it's also the most effective. Instead of trying to avoid thinking about what might go wrong, you systematically analyze the worst possible outcome and prepare for it mentally and practically. When you clearly define the worst thing that could happen and accept it as a possibility, something remarkable occurs. Your worry disappears completely. Paul Getty, one of the wealthiest Americans in history, used this principle for every major business decision. Before investing millions of dollars in oil exploration, he would ask himself, what's the worst that could happen? The answer was always the same. I could lose all the money I'm investing. Once he accepted this possibility and determined that he could survive it financially, he was free to pursue the opportunity with complete confidence. This mental exercise eliminated worry and enabled him to take calculated risks that others were too anxious to attempt. The beauty of worst-case scenario planning is that it transforms vague anxiety into specific, manageable challenges. Worry thrives on uncertainty and ambiguity. When you clearly define what you're actually afraid of, you discover that it's almost never as catastrophic as your imagination suggested. Moreover, once you know exactly what you're dealing with, you can create specific strategies to prevent it or handle it if it occurs. The fourth principle is the principle of purposeful action. The only antidote to worry is purposeful action. You cannot simultaneously worry about a problem and take constructive action to solve it. These are mutually exclusive mental states. When you're actively working on a solution, your mind has no capacity for worry. When you're worrying, you're not taking action. The choice is always yours, worry or action, but never both. This principle explains why successful people rarely worry. They're too busy implementing solutions. When they encounter a challenge, they immediately shift into action mode. They gather information, consider alternatives, make decisions, and execute plans. They understand that action is the enemy of anxiety. Every minute spent in productive activity is a minute not available for worry. Here's a practical application of this principle. Tonight, make a list of everything you're currently worried about. For each item on the list, write down one specific action you can take tomorrow to move toward a solution. Then take that action immediately. You'll discover that the act of moving forward eliminates the mental space where worry exists. Momentum is the enemy of anxiety. The fifth principle is the principle of time blocking for worry. This sounds paradoxical, but it's incredibly effective. Instead of allowing worry to consume your entire day randomly, schedule a specific 15-minute worry session each day. During this time, you give yourself complete permission to worry about anything and everything that concerns you. Write down your worries, analyze them, and feel anxious about them. But when the 15 minutes are up, you're finished worrying for the day. This technique works because it gives you control over when and how long you worry. Most people worry constantly because they've never given themselves boundaries around it. By creating a specific time and place for worry, you reclaim control over your mental state for the remaining 23 hours and 45 minutes of your day. Dr. Thomas Borkovec at Penn State University has extensively studied this technique and found that it reduces worry by an average of 35% within 2 weeks. The sixth principle is the principle of productive displacement. You cannot think two thoughts simultaneously. When you're completely absorbed in constructive mental activity, you have no cognitive capacity left for worry. The key is to deliberately fill your mind with thoughts that move you toward your goals rather than away from them. This is why physical exercise is such a powerful worry eliminator. When you're pushing your body to its limits during a workout, your mind cannot simultaneously generate anxious thoughts. Similarly, when you're completely engaged in challenging, meaningful work, worry becomes impossible. The solution is to structure your days around activities that demand your complete mental attention and contribute to your long-term success. Benjamin Franklin used this principle throughout his life. Whenever he felt overwhelmed by problems, he would immediately immerse himself in learning something new or working on an invention. He understood that a mind focused on creation cannot simultaneously focus on destruction. By deliberately directing his mental energy toward constructive activities, he maintained peace of mind even during America's most turbulent historical periods. The seventh and final principle is the principle of philosophical acceptance. Some things in life are simply beyond your control. The weather, other people's opinions, global economic conditions, natural disasters, and countless other factors will always exist outside your sphere of influence. Peace of mind comes from accepting this reality completely and focusing exclusively on what you can control. The Stoic philosophers of ancient Rome developed this principle into a complete life philosophy. Marcus Aurelius, who governed the Roman Empire during one of its most challenging periods, wrote in his personal journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This isn't passive resignation. This is strategic focus. When you stop wasting mental energy on things you cannot control, you have dramatically more energy available for things you can control. Here's how these 7 principles work together in practice. Let me share with you the ultimate worry elimination system, a 4-step process that combines all these principles into a simple, repeatable formula that you can use for any situation that triggers anxiety in your life. Step 1. Define the situation clearly in writing. Take out a piece of paper and write down exactly what you're worried about. Be specific. Instead of writing, "I'm worried about money," write, "I'm worried that I might not have enough savings to pay my mortgage if I lose my job." The act of writing forces you to clarify your thinking and often reveals that your worry is less serious than it seemed when it was just floating around in your mind. Step 2. Determine the worst possible outcome. Ask yourself, what's the absolute worst thing that could happen in this situation? Write down your answer. Be realistic but thorough. In the mortgage example, the worst case might be, I could lose my house and have to rent an apartment while I look for a new job. Once you've clearly defined the worst case, ask yourself, would this situation kill me? Would I be able to recover from it? In almost every case, the answer is that you would survive and eventually recover. Step 3. Accept the worst possible outcome mentally and emotionally. This doesn't mean you want it to happen or that you're giving up. It means you're acknowledging that if it did happen, you would find a way to handle it. This mental acceptance eliminates the resistance that creates anxiety. When you stop fighting the possibility of something happening, you stop experiencing stress about it. Step 4. Begin immediately to work on improving the worst-case scenario. Now that you've accepted that the worst might happen, focus all your energy on preventing it or minimizing its impact. In the mortgage example, you might update your resume, start networking for job opportunities, reduce unnecessary expenses, or explore ways to generate additional income. The key is to take constructive action while maintaining emotional acceptance of whatever outcome occurs. This 4-step process is devastatingly effective because it addresses both the emotional and practical aspects of worry. You gain emotional peace by accepting what might happen, and you gain confidence by taking action to improve your situation. Most importantly, you shift from being a victim of circumstances to being an active agent in your own life. Let me give you a real-world example of how this system works. Sarah, a marketing executive from Chicago, came to me completely overwhelmed by worry about her job security. Her company was going through layoffs, and she was convinced she would be terminated. She was spending 4 to 5 hours every day consumed by anxiety, which was actually hurting her job performance and making termination more likely. We applied the 4-step system. First, she defined her worry specifically. I'm afraid I'll be laid off within the next 3 months because my department is being restructured. Second, she determined the worst case. I would be unemployed for up to 6 months and might have to take a lower paying position. Third, she accepted this possibility. If this happens, I'll survive. I have some savings, and I'm skilled enough to find another job eventually. Fourth, she took action. She updated her LinkedIn profile, reached out to former colleagues, started freelance projects to build additional income streams, and most importantly, refocused on delivering exceptional performance in her current role. The result? Her worry disappeared within 48 hours. She was sleeping better, performing better at work, and feeling confident about her future regardless of what happened with the layoffs. As it turned out, she wasn't laid off, and 6 months later she received a promotion. But even if she had been terminated, she was prepared and confident in her ability to handle it. This brings us to a crucial point about the relationship between worry and success. Worry is not just unproductive, it's actively counterproductive. When you worry about something, you're using the law of attraction in reverse. You're focusing your mental energy on exactly what you don't want to experience. Your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between what you want and what you don't want. It simply responds to whatever you focus on most intensely. When you consistently worry about failure, rejection, or loss, you're programming your subconscious mind to notice opportunities for failure, rejection, and loss. You become hypersensitive to threats and blind to opportunities. Your decision-making becomes defensive rather than strategic. You start playing not to lose instead of playing to win. This virtually guarantees mediocre results in every area of your life. Conversely, when you eliminate worry and focus on desired outcomes, you activate what psychologists call the reticular activating system. This is the part of your brain that filters information and determines what you pay attention to. When you're focused on solutions and opportunities, you literally start noticing things that can help you achieve your goals. You become more creative, more confident, and more effective in everything you do. The elimination of worry is not just about feeling better, although you will feel dramatically better. It's about unlocking your full potential for achievement and success. Every successful person throughout history has mastered the ability to maintain peace of mind regardless of external circumstances. They understand that worry is a luxury they cannot afford if they want to perform at their highest level. Consider Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War. He was dealing with a divided nation, massive casualties, political opposition, and personal tragedies, including the death of his son. Yet he maintained the mental clarity necessary to make life and death decisions affecting millions of people. How did he do it? He focused exclusively on what he could control and took immediate action on everything within his power. He didn't waste time worrying about what might happen. He was too busy working on what needed to happen. This same principle applies to your life today. Whatever challenges you're facing, whatever uncertainties you're dealing with, whatever fears you're harboring, you have the same choice that Lincoln had. Worry about what might happen or work on what needs to happen. The choice you make will determine not just how you feel, but how effective you are and ultimately how successful you become. Now, let me address the most common objection people have to worry elimination. But what if something really bad happens and I'm not prepared for it? This objection reveals a fundamental misunderstanding about the purpose of mental energy. Worry does not prepare you for anything. Planning prepares you. Action prepares you. Building skills prepares you. Creating resources prepares you. Worry is just mental wheel spinning that creates the illusion of preparation without any actual benefit. The difference between worry and preparation is enormous. Worry is emotional and reactive. Preparation is logical and proactive. Worry focuses on problems. Preparation focuses on solutions. Worry creates anxiety. Preparation creates confidence. Worry wastes time. Preparation saves time. When you eliminate worry and redirect that mental energy toward actual preparation, you become significantly more effective at handling whatever life brings your way. Here's what I want you to understand about the relationship between worry and reality. Worry is always about future events that may or may not happen. Reality is about present circumstances that actually exist. When you're worrying, you're not dealing with reality. You're dealing with fantasy. You're creating elaborate mental movies about imaginary futures and then experiencing real emotional distress about fictional events. This is why worry is so exhausting. You're using real energy to fight imaginary battles. You're experiencing real stress about fictional problems. Your body cannot distinguish between an actual threat and an imagined threat. When you worry about giving a presentation next week, your nervous system responds as if you're giving the presentation right now. You experience all the physical symptoms of stress without any of the benefits of actually addressing a real situation. The solution is to stay anchored in present reality while taking appropriate action for future possibilities. This means focusing on what exists now and what you can do now to influence future outcomes. When you catch yourself worrying about what might happen next week, next month, or next year, immediately ask yourself, what can I do right now to improve this situation? Then do that thing immediately. This brings us to one of the most powerful worry elimination techniques ever developed, the daily review process. Every evening, Spend 5 minutes reviewing your day and planning tomorrow. Ask yourself 3 questions. What did I accomplish today that moved me toward my goals? What did I learn today that will help me tomorrow? What specific actions will I take tomorrow to continue moving forward? This process keeps your mind focused on progress and growth rather than problems and possibilities. During this daily review, if you notice that you've been worrying about something, immediately apply the 4-step worry elimination system. Define the concern clearly, determine the worst case, accept it mentally, and plan your next action. This prevents worry from accumulating and becoming overwhelming. It also ensures that you're always taking constructive action rather than just thinking in circles. The daily review process also helps you recognize patterns in your worry. You might discover that you tend to worry most about financial security, relationship issues, or health concerns. Once you identify these patterns, you can develop specific strategies to address them proactively. For example, if you consistently worry about money, you can create automatic savings plans, diversify your income sources, and build financial skills that increase your confidence and capability. Let me share with you one final principle that ties everything together: the principle of purposeful living. When you have clear, compelling goals that you're working toward every day, you have no mental space available for worry. Purpose is the ultimate worry eliminator because it gives your mind a positive direction to focus on. When you know exactly what you want to achieve and why you want to achieve it, every challenge becomes an opportunity to grow stronger, and every setback becomes valuable feedback that helps you adjust your approach. Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist who survived Nazi concentration camps, wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how." He observed that prisoners who had a clear sense of purpose were far more likely to survive the most horrific conditions imaginable. They didn't waste mental energy worrying about what might happen to them. They focused on what they needed to do to survive and eventually reunite with their families or complete their life's work. This same principle applies to your daily life. When you have meaningful goals that inspire you and a clear plan for achieving them, temporary setbacks and uncertainties become minor irritations rather than major sources of worry. You develop what psychologists call stress inoculation. You become mentally resilient because you're focused on where you're going rather than what might go wrong along the way. Here's your action plan for implementing everything we've discussed today. Tonight, before you go to sleep, make a list of everything you're currently worried about. Be comprehensive. Include everything from minor concerns to major fears. Tomorrow morning, apply the 4-step worry elimination system to each item on your list. Define each worry clearly, determine the worst case, accept it mentally, and identify one specific action you can take to improve the situation. Then, implement the daily review process starting tomorrow evening. Spend 5 minutes every evening reviewing your progress and planning the next day. Focus on what you can control and what you can do rather than what might go wrong. Within 1 week, you'll notice a dramatic reduction in your worry levels. Within 1 month, worry will no longer be a significant factor in your daily experience. Remember, worry is nothing more than a bad mental habit. And like all habits, it can be changed through consistent practice of better alternatives. Every time you catch yourself beginning to worry, immediately shift your focus to action. Ask yourself, what can I do right now to improve this situation? Then do it immediately. The choice is always yours. You can spend your mental energy worrying about imaginary problems or working on real solutions. You can focus on what might go wrong or what needs to go right. You can be a victim of circumstances or an architect of outcomes. The techniques I've shared with you today will work if you work them. They will give you the peace of mind that enables peak performance if you apply them consistently. Your life is too valuable and your potential too great to waste on worry. Starting right now, make the decision to eliminate this destructive mental habit forever. Take control of your thoughts, focus on what you can influence, and take purposeful action toward your most important goals. When you do this consistently, you'll discover that worry becomes impossible and peace of mind becomes your natural state. This is not just a nice idea. This is your birthright as a human being capable of choosing your thoughts and directing your life. The time to claim it is now.